Hello guys, welcome to episode 30 of Sound Pollution, this week featuring the Groovebirds. Per usual, we are going to be discussing what inspires them, their creative process, and the truth behind some of their tracks. They are super cool. It had some fantastic advice and stories to share, so please stay for all the fun. Also, I really need everyone to subscribe to this podcast. It helps, and I need just as many subscribers as I have downloads. It makes growing easier. It makes the podcast easier to find. And it helps me get and or keep sponsors, so I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you haven't done so yet and you are interested, please consider becoming a patron. Patreon page link is down below. Lastly, this week, Sound Pollution has joined TikTok and Snapchat. And I've discovered that I'm really getting old because I have no fucking idea how to use either one of these apps. But please consider adding me. The podcast can be found by searching Sound Pollution P. That's SoundPollutionP. And enjoy the show. I am here with the Groovebirds. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves to my listeners?
Hey, my name is Tracy, and I play bass and guitar for the Groovebirds.
And I'm Rod Coleman. I play keys and I play drums, mostly drums.
And how did you guys get together?
Well, we met in the first blues band I was playing in, and we played together for a year before we even went out and had coffee. We were playing in kind of a blues rock band in Portland, Oregon. We met in Portland, Oregon playing music, basically.
Correct. Yeah, we started out as a rhythm section.
Yeah, we played bass and drums, so we were a rhythm section.
Yeah, we couldn't get our foot in the door in the blues scene, so we kind of went our own way.
But I can definitely hear the blues influence in your music, so that makes some sense to me.
Yeah, I love the blues. I'm a huge fan of the blues. I'm a huge fan of jazz. Blues rock, I love, I always have loved it, it's just always kind of, I've gravitated toward it, you have your niche, you like what you sound like, and I think I tend to be a little bit more of a blues rock type of person.
I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I appreciate the blues. I'm just not I'm not as diehard.
He likes prog rock. I like 90s grunge too a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they're very also heavily influenced by blues and country sort of together.
Yeah, if you think about it, the American music was jazz and blues, really. Everything rooted off of that, I think. If people were to look back in the history, I mean, if you think about jazz, it was one of the great American art forms. Jazz is a great art form, and the blues, that came before that even,
What would you say your genre is, or do you think you can't even really be pigeonholed into an area?
Yeah, it'd be tough. We're all over the map. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess depending on how you look at it. We call it alt contemporary or
alternative,
alt soft rock, something like that.
I don't know. It's I always just think of it as just, original music's tough because people either like it or they don't. And in a way, I think that in some ways, Raynell, I think a lot of our stuff has kind of a sound of the 70s and even maybe it's different. I think we just play what we feel, and maybe people either like it or they don't. But if you look at each of our albums, there's something bluesy, there's something alternative. There's some. Rod writes a lot of stuff in different time signatures, so.
Yeah, our influences are pretty
wide,
pretty diverse. For me, I started out as a big fan of Motown when I was a kid. Where I grew up, it was kind of in the early 70s. I'll go ahead and date myself. It was a little bit just we were starting to feel the effects out in rural America, the effects of the turbulent times of the late 60s.
Yeah.
I guess I always call myself kind of a closet Motown fan because it wasn't like I would have been beaten for my tastes. Having said that, nobody really got into it. It was more of a rock thing, which gave me kind of another influence into the rock field. And from there, I delved into a little pop. I was a big fan of Elton John.
Yeah.
Still had the rock feeling going into the progressive stuff. Some of the Brit pop and bands like Jethro Tull, Rush. I liked those guys a lot. Yes, I'm a big, still to this day, Kansas, bands like that. But I've always kept that little bit of a pop. I'm a big fan of Bernie Taupin, frankly, and Elton as well. So that's kind of the side I bring to it. And then Tracy's.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of music, because for a while I was a disc jockey, a long while, and so you would spin everything, everything. I like music in general. I think it's like the universal language, and sound so immense. You know what I mean? You can get sound from anywhere. But if I were to say, I remember like my mom listening to spinning records, she listened to a lot of Cat Stevens, she listened to Janis Joplin,
Janis.
Yeah, I heard a lot of Cat Stevens, a lot of Janis Joplin, a lot of Jimi Hendrix, and then I heard a lot of Fleetwood Mac was huge, and I heard a lot. Unfortunately, where I grew up on a horse ranch in Colorado, so I heard a lot of country. And I heard a lot of Waylon, and I heard a lot of Willie, and I heard a lot of stuff. And then I really gravitated in the 90s. I was in Denver, and I was huge, loving Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains. I liked that 90s sound a lot, but I will say, I've always been a huge fan of Texas blues as well. ZZ Top, I love them. Stevie Ray Vaughan, huge favorite of Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, he was great. His bass player I love so much, Tommy Shannon, and I really liked Alice in Chains. Jerry Cantrell's such a huge, great guitarist, and even the Stone Temple Pilots stuff. I liked their stuff, and they were coming out of San Diego. It's all over the map, but I think for me, I just play what I am. I write what I am. And so I'm pretty much just true to myself, for better or for worse. And I don't know if that's it. It's a hard thing because I just write I'm more like a story songwriter, a story singer. That's what I consider myself, a story singer.
Okay.
A bass player, first and foremost, guitar, but a story singer. So I write about things that have happened to me. I write about things that I've seen, and I've been fortunate enough. I have had, more than one career. I haven't just been a musician, though I've been around music since I was probably 12,
So, I mean, I think it's good when you don't actually have a genre, because then you get to, especially as an independent musician, because there's no one telling you what you have to do. You get to do exactly what you feel. And if you don't stick yourself in one little mold, then you get to experiment and play and really be true to yourself. And I find that a lot of independent musicians that I've spoke to kind of are like, I guess I'll just say I'm Americana because I like everything. I do everything. It's hard to pick just one thing.
I mean, I've always said indie rock, Americana. We really are a product of this country and this country's music and all the huge amount of influence. And I've always been a huge fan of guitar, like a great guitarist.
Yeah.
Or a great, like Rod really likes piano, and he plays it, and like it's just a different sound. I've always loved horns, like the sound of saxophone, or even lots of different influences in music. It's sound.
It's sound with feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, I think, and I'm also a strong. I believe that women in music, really support women in music.
Yes.
I like to see that, and I really like to see what's happening to my sisters in music, and everywhere all over the country right now. There's just a really a little bit of a change, and it's been a long haul in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying?
It's been a long time coming. I just went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago, and they have, the list of the people you can vote for the next year.
Yeah.
And I was floored that some of the women on that list weren't already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And and a lot of men who came after them, not that they weren't important in their own way, but like some of these women were groundbreaking. Tina Turner.
Oh yeah.
Just now nominated. Just now, like.
Yeah. At the end of her career. I mean, I guess that means that you better play music because you love it, and you better be into it to, because so many people don't get any accolades at all for it, and they do it because they love it. And I guess there's something to be said for that. If you, like, we played a lot of times in some bands. We played in country band, blues band, rock band as a rhythm section. And, eventually, and Rod was kind of instrumental in pointing out this, that if you don't play your own music before you know it, your life's over and you never really followed your true heart.
Oh, wow. That's really deep, and I kind of needed to hear that today.
Yeah,
well, I probably didn't put it that eloquently, but
well, it's the truth for everybody. Like, times are tough, Raynell, you know it, and there's a lot of people that are really struggling right now, and I've seen it, and I've firsthand seen it. Let's just put it that way. In my kind of first solid career that I've done for a lot of years, I've seen firsthand how a person's life can change immediately. In seconds, your life can be something totally different and change forever. And I consider it an honor and a privilege to play music. And I think that all types of music, there's a lot of people out there that are a little bit uppity about their music, and it's sad to me because there's so much music out there, and there's so many people that deserve to be heard but aren't, because of whatever thing maybe they didn't have enough money to scrape together to put together a CD, or maybe, like, I always feel, and then I'm probably going to talk a little less because I feel like I'm pounding my partner, I'm galloping over. Yeah, but I mean, like, if you are going to put out music, I think, like, for us, we try to put out CDs that are good.
Yeah.
We got another one in the works. We're going to figure out how to do that. And if you've got to work to get enough money together to put your CD, to go into a good studio and put your CD out the way you want it to sound, then that's what you've got to do, and that's what we do. We've got 3 out. And we go into studios that are reputable, and we go with people that we know are going to give us a good product. And we want a good sound, because if you think about it, the possibility of these existing long after I'm gone may occur, and nobody's going to hear me, or maybe someday somebody's going to hear me and go, wow. But most importantly is, if one song that I play or sing, or Rod plays or sings, affects somebody or makes their life better or makes them think in a different way, then I think it's worth it.
Well, we have a little confession to make, I think, too, on that topic, is we're not really sharp technically. The only reason I bring that up is that on the flip side of what she just said, I think the opportunity is better than ever for people to produce their own music because of the technological advances that have happened since I was a kid. And it's a great thing. It's opened the markets wide open. I mean, there's too many stations. You can't keep a track of everything. But I don't know that that's a bad thing. I don't know that the death or the dying of the monolith, as it were, is such a bad thing.
Well, I think it's been a great equalizer, because if you ever wanted your stuff listened to, you had to get it on a label, you had to this, that, and the other. Yeah. And now I can make a song in my living room and have it on the internet in, minutes.
Exactly. that's wonderful that people can, even if you're not really able to play an instrument, you can still realize the creative ideas in your head through technology. It's kind of great. A lot of people look down on that, I suppose. I personally don't. I think it's great.
I think you should study 5 to 8 hours a day in the shed. Jet.
Sure, yeah, and you could churn your own butter too. That'd be great fun. Yeah.
I don't know. I will agree with Rod there, but my instruments of choice require practice.
Right.
If you're going to be good. And all of them, bass, guitar, and even your voice. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one I probably spend no time on, and I should spend more time on it. But I also think maybe sometimes people are just born with certain voices that speak to people or not.
It's great to have the availability to do it from your living room, and you don't have to wait on that big label, because I really feel like major labels are kind of evil. Not kind of, they're evil. Especially as a woman, if you do get on one, then there's all these little strings attached to what you can and cannot do, how you can and cannot look, what you can and cannot say. I mean, it's the same for guys too, but it's harder for women. You gain pounds, they want to shut you down.
What if you're old? What if you're an older musician? That's I think that people have something to say at every age, and really, like, what you know at 30 isn't what you know at 60.
And a great example of that is Joni Mitchell, because she can sing the same song she wrote in her 20s in her 60s, and it means a whole different thing, and the way she executes it's a whole different. But it's because the wisdom that comes with time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's marching on whether you like it or not, so you must as well be okay with it,
So Rod, what would you say got you started in music?
My earliest memories of playing drums, for sure, weren't really drums. I remember vividly dragging buckets and things out from under the kitchen sink and beating on them. I had a toy drum set when I was a kid. My father played guitar. He listened to a lot of country music. I was never into it, but I suppose I probably was turned on to it a little bit. And then I had some formal training in grade school. I wanted to play the drums the first year. I was told, no, you can play trombone, though, because they didn't have, they had too many drummers or whatever. It was a great experience for me. I learned a little bit about music notation and things like that. But I suppose what really inspired me to play in the capacity that I have over the years, I saw the jazz band play, and this little kid was just ripping it up on the drums. They were playing a more of a Ike and Tina version of Proud Mary. From there, I was just kind of sparked to play. I said earlier that I played more drums than keys. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore. I play drums better than I play keys. That's for sure. The keyboard, I was obviously influenced by the Elton John music there, and just the ability to write, to express, I think, is probably what kept me going in that regard.
Tracy, what about you?
Well, my mom was a musician and my grandfather was a musician. So I heard a lot of music, you know what I mean? And my grandfather, he was a studio musician in LA. So he was kind of like during the big band, like he was like a, big band dude. He could play whatever. He played accordion, piano, trombone, trumpet. My mom was like a folk guitarist and a singer. So I always would hang out and listen. And my mom was like, she only dated lead guitarists, right? Parents got divorced. So it was always like a lead guitarist around. So guitar was around, and she hung out with artistic people. And I grew up in an artistic type place back in the day. And so I gravitated toward guitar pretty early, and I just would watch my mom and listen to what she would play and do and watch chords. And I always just kind of played guitar by ear. But I started to study the bass later in life and study it, like take lessons, learn how to read music, at least bass clef, and really start to, I was very driven to play bass as well as I could and to express myself with it. But the bass is not really that much of an interest, or that much of an interest. You have to have a band if you're a bass player. You can't really just sit in your room and play bass and write songs, though I do. But lately I've tend to write more songs on guitar, though all the blues songs, like a lot of blues songs that I write, are just with bass. Because if you're playing blues bass, you've got a certain, like there's a bunch of feels that you want to play on bass, and I just would study the bass and learn these feels when I was studying bass, and just sing to it, sing to them, sing blues to them, you know. I had a very specific goal when I started playing bass, and that was I wanted to play in a band as soon as possible. I wanted it to be a blues band, you know, so that's what I did.
What was the first time you played on stage, and was that kind of an aha moment for you, or was it just absolutely terrifying?
It was a talent show of sorts, I suppose, and it was in junior high school, and this was for me. It was in my rock phase. I was actually playing bass in this band too, because now the tables had turned and there were no bass players. There were drummers everywhere. So the first band I played in was with a couple of the first band that was organized in that period was with a couple of friends that played guitar, and then we picked up a drummer. His name was Pat Yaden. He's actually
a singer now.
Really good singer. He sings with Jennifer Batten. She played guitar with Michael Jackson and a few other people.
She's a good guitarist.
She is.
But anyway, I
Very
digress.
much so.
So that was the big show, and of course we played a lot of Kiss songs, which I'm not going to out and out knock them, you know. Yeah. Anyway, they were, and it was. I don't know that actually turned me. I think I was already pretty committed to doing something, but that was the first time I remember being on stage, and it was kind of nervy for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, mine was in Portland, Oregon at some blues jam, and I literally used to get sick. I couldn't even eat. I get stage fright. I have terrible. It's better now. It's
yeah.
I still get it, but I figured out how to not look out if there's an audience. Like, we've played to so many different people, and then just time, like we traveled in 2019 like all over the country playing music, and sometimes you play to a lot of people or a few people or nobody. It was like pretending like the chairs were an audience. That's what I was like, wow, there's nobody here, but the chairs are here, so here we go. I always try to do it like I'm playing to like thousands of people, even if I'm playing to nobody. Just, it's in my mind, you know what I mean? But I'm afraid of the audience, so I had to look out over people, and that's what I learned. Some guy at a blues jam that was a sax player taught me, that you just don't even look at people, because I get pretty nervous, you know. People are scary to me sometimes, you know, especially when I'd rather be on stage than in the crowd. You know what I mean? I feel more comfortable up there on stage. Like a better place to be than in the scene, you know, in the scene down in there. You know what I mean? That seems a little bit like dicey down with the people. Anything could happen. I'd rather be in the back with my bass.
Let's talk about Time It Takes. So tell me about that song.
So Time It Takes was written in Portland, Oregon, and it was written during a time when I suddenly began to realize that the city had changed and was changing, and the people in the city were also changing, and I realized that it didn't feel like home anymore. And what it was I moved to Portland, Oregon in 2000 from Seattle, Washington, and in a time when it was still pretty much a really cool place to be. And Time It Takes was written when I realized that I thought people were, you know, one of the lines is, you don't smell the smoke as it fills the air. Like, the whole city was becoming this polluted, overcrowded place, and nobody seemed to notice it. And I was like, you don't get it. Like, the whole place is changing, and, you know, there's birds flying. You don't see the birds as they fly away. Nobody's realizing what's happening to our world. Nobody's seeing what's going on. Nobody is connecting to nature anymore. they don't even see the haze, even if it's all around them. You know, it's like, what's happening? And so that was kind of where that came from. You know, it just had like a little bit of a funky kind of an octave bass line to it. And I just was like, wow, this town has changed and it's going to continue to change. And I don't really belong. I don't feel like I belong here anymore. You know, that was, I just was kind of the beginning of me realizing that things were starting to change and that eventually I knew I was going to have to leave a town that I really loved and kind of grew up in, you know.
Time it takes to realize all things pass with time, like the creatures that disappear every day. No one looks in the sky no more. They don't see the birds as they fly away. Time it takes is the time it You don't smell the smog as it fills the air. Can't see the haze, baby, even though it's everywhere. Time it takes is the Won't you reach through? The time is here and now. Better wake up. We might not make it anyhow. Time it takes is the time it
Tell me about Delilah and Samson.
That was a song that was written for my last horse, believe it or not. I mean,
Aw.
most people don't even. I mean, it's such a dark. Like I tend to write really dark lyrics, but I wrote it. I wrote it the day I had to put my horse down. He was 30 years old, and his name was Sam,
Oh.
and I loved him. He was. I have him tattooed on my right arm. I love that horse.
I'm
I
so
rescued him
sorry.
from the slaughterhouse. Yeah, and I was so kind of distraught that I just came home and I started making this weird little bass line, and the music just flows. Like with songs for me, it just comes when it comes. You know what I mean? I don't, I don't like sit there every day and like, okay, I'm going to write 3 songs today. I'm going to write 4 songs today. I'm going to write 5 songs today. It's not how it works for me. Personally, for me, it just, something opens up and it comes. And it's usually in response to something I've observed or had to experience. That was exactly what that was about. The lyrics were dark, and I was sad when I wrote it because my friend had died.
I'm so sorry.
He was a good boy. He had a good life.
I had to put my dog down last year, and I'd had her for. And then people were like, "Oh, it's no big deal. You know, dogs die every day." I was like, "You don't understand."
It's your friend. It's like, that's something I've never. I don't eat meat, and I haven't eaten meat since 1993, and
Wow.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Even when I was a young girl, I didn't like it. It's like to me, they're part of the family. Like I have a dog here. He's at our feet right now. His name is Bowie because he has one brown eye and one blue eye.
Yes.
And all of them, I used to rescue ferrets too. Anyway, enough. Sorry don't start me talking.
It's tough.
No.
It is tough to lose a dog. I grieve more for a dog than I have people sometimes.
But the thing is look at how loyal animals can be.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah, like they give you so much, and people could take, in my opinion, a big education about how the beauty of animals and how much they've suffered in silence. We really, in my opinion, have done a little bit of a bad turn to some of them.
Yeah, compare that loyalty to, say, a publisher.
Yeah.
Right.
A record company. Business. It's a business. And
It is true.
That's why I always turf the business off on my partner, Rod. He's better at business. Like I'm a little too mercurial for it. I'm just like, ooh, I gotta go.
Yeah, you're like, "Ooh, I feel the weird ugly."
Yeah, he's better at it. I always like hide behind him for that.
You just take a lot of showers. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I can't deal with it because it really has nothing to do with the music.
corners of your mind. Samson, you shouldn't have gone there. You were taken unaware. Beauty fades like a dull night, and sometimes life goes nowhere.
And now I'm going to ask you about the next two tracks. They're off, I guess, the recent release.
Yeah.
First one is called Prelude. I really liked that.
That's
Oh,
Rod.
okay.
Rod wrote that song.
Okay, Ron, I really liked the piano in that. I need to personally tell you that is very beautiful. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the prelude part kind of came from another song idea. Many times I'll sit down in the morning and play and come up with something. Common Enemy, that piece was one that came pretty quickly. I don't characteristically write that way. Usually I come up with a melody, a chorus, and usually a first verse, and then a lot of times it just goes in the drawer for an undetermined amount of time. And then I bust out a second verse one day that happens to hit me, and that's the way it happens sometimes. Common Enemy I actually got all at once pretty much, and it was, I guess, that lyrically it was more about I think it was influenced by the craziness, social media, and that kind of thing. That and a little bit of Congress thrown in, perhaps. I don't know. It's not really that political. But it is a tad. The prelude part, though, was actually another piece, and electronic string lines that part was written by Phil Carroll, and he's the keyboard player who plays with us on the album and whenever we can live.
Yeah, he's the unspoken third Groovebird. But when we left Portland, Oregon, he wasn't coming with us. We moved out here to New Mexico because we wanted to play music, and we wanted to live, like, how expensive Portland was. I lived all the time, man, to keep the we both were working, and out here it's a way better scene. Unfortunately COVID has kind of been a big pain in the butt for music, but before the Coves, when we found a little house out here in New Mexico on the Colorado and New Mexico border, and it's just a way mellower lifestyle. It's
Phil played a long time though before he met us. The story of us meeting Phil is kind of weird. We played this little Saturday market gig in Portland, and we were in the blues rock thing in a band called Navigate North with the guitarist Brian Tatman, and we needed some backup for a lot of reasons. And I put an ad in Craigslist, and it was simply needed either keyboards or a rhythm guitar for a crappy gig. And he answered it. So
did you literally say a crappy gig in the ad?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Word for word. And
awesome.
he said he took it because he couldn't believe anybody would say that. And he also he wanted to play some blues.
He's a good player.
He's played a lot.
He's
and
solid.
he's met a lot of those exec types and gone through the ringer a few times. So that's another reason he didn't tour as much with us and wasn't as excited about all of that as
Yeah.
he's got a good life there. He lives outside of Portland a little ways.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been there, done that, and he's happy to go in the studio, but he's less tolerant of some of the dives that we've wound up in.
Yeah, we played a lot, man. We played everywhere and a lot of dives. A lot of dives. Yeah, we played some places. One time, I'm telling you, we played this place in Portland, and we loaded in, and about halfway through the first set, I was like, man, I smell shit. Can I say that? And I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, dude, I smell shit. And I'm up there and I'm playing, and we get halfway, we play our first set, and I'm like, this is terrible. So I went into the bathroom, and I kept smelling shit, and I oh my God, and I lifted up my boot, and there was dog shit on the bottom of both of my freaking boots. I had when we loaded in, there was this patch of grass, and I guess that's where everybody went and let their dog shit.
Oh.
And I had gotten shit on my boots, and I played the first gig, because I knew it, because when I'm playing the bass, I tap my foot. You tap your foot. So every time I tap it, I'd get a whiff of shite up in my face, and I had to play like the first hour with shite right into my face before. And then I went into this dive bar, tried to scrub it off my boots, and plugged up their sink. I was awesome. We played stinkers.
That
man.
used to be a secret, but it's okay because the place is closed.
Yeah, the place is closed now. They closed it down like they do so many. But like we played the Blue Moon up in Seattle, and that was where Nirvana played, I guess, a couple times. And that place, I wouldn't even use the bathroom there. I'm not kidding. Dive bars. But that's okay. They're good for you sometimes. They teach you to be strong.
Hey, and a lot of good bands played at really crappy dive bars. I mean, if you look at CBGB, it kind of looked like a shitty dive bar.
Oh my God! Did you ever? You should watch that.
Sure.
I did.
Yeah, did you watch that?
That's typical. That's very typical, though.
That dude Hilly would let his dog just poop on the floor.
Like wherever, it's fine. It's fine.
It's true though. Well, what do? You do the best you can.
Well, that particular dive bar though, they were pretty good to us.
Yeah.
But we're not
good
really sure if they liked our music or one of the bartenders was a big Hunter Thompson fan. He found out that Tracy actually met Hunter Thompson.
Yeah, well, I grew up where he was, you know what I mean, and my dad was his buddy.
Her father, he was hung out with him, and so that's
totally.
another topic.
Yeah, no, totally. My dad was good friends with Hunter S. Thompson, and they would like party together all the time, and leave the room when those guys would start. Those days thank God some of those days are over.
our brothers took the time we had to spare, till the deeds of others disavowed our need to care. Well, all them greedy mothers try to stop it if you dare. Well, what we feed is a common enemy. Too many gods, too many names, too many frauds, too many shame, too many nods and too many blame. Too many hearts, too many pains, too many plans, too many games, too many cards, too many canes. But if we discover some light no longer seen, a better creed uncovered where our rights have always been, attempt to breathe through another, roll our eyes and count to 10 before we feed some common enemy. Yeah. Before we feed this common enemy. Common enemy. Common enemy. Common enemy, yeah.
Tell me about The Road.
So that was written for my niece. I wrote a couple songs for my niece actually when things were. I think it was just a time when somebody I cared about was struggling a little bit. As I say, I often write music based on what my experiences are. So I was just watching things in the life of somebody I loved fall apart. That was what came out of that. I was sad for her, and she worked it out in the end and is a strong woman and a beautiful woman. But sometimes people have to, we all have to struggle sometimes, and it's kind of what gives us character, and it's kind of what makes you realize the good times in your life if you've had some of the dark times in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always feel like, this is I'm sure everybody's heard this saying before, but it's really quite true. It's the courage to change. Whatever your situation is, whether it's I want to leave Louisville or I got to leave Portland or I want to play, if you have the courage to change your life, then all you have to do is follow that, and that was kind of what that song was about. And also like just the fact that the road just goes on forever, you just keep doing your thing. And I'm a blues person, really, and that song kind of had a little blues edge to it, and I dig it. I dig the blues, and the guy that played guitar on it is a phenomenal musician, and yeah, he's good. And we've played with a lot of great musicians. We've been lucky, and there's a lot more to be played with. I'm sure we'll find more good musicians down the road and play with them. The music takes you where the music takes you. Yeah,
that's true. And now you're in New Mexico?
Yes, we live in New Mexico now, for now, anyway. And
do you guys like it?
New Mexico is beautiful. It has a wonder of its own. I grew up in Colorado, then moved to Oregon. So my father's from Albuquerque. He was from Albuquerque. And I think, oddly enough, New Mexico is a very beautiful state, which I didn't really know because I'd never checked it out. And it's really an affordable state. And there's parts of it that aren't really, like there's some phenomenally beautiful and mystical places in New Mexico. So I would say for now, this is a wonderful place to be. It's also pretty much in the middle of the country, so we can branch off into any direction. It's very close to Albuquerque. It's very close to Denver. It's very close to Austin. It's very close to, you know, New Orleans. I mean, in 2 or 3 days, you can be wherever you need to be in the country. And if you want to play music, you got to travel.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it the land of enchantment.
Yeah.
Which we didn't find out, you know, until we got here.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Our main objective was to get someplace affordable toward the middle of the country to where we could
play music.
We could
go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then COVID-19 hit, and so here we are.
Yeah.
And now you're not going anywhere.
No, but you know,
it's almost over.
Yeah, and it'll happen. And I also have a pretty solid profession on the side of playing music, which has always been a good thing to have, you know.
Yes.
So I'm happy there.
Okay, we're rolling.
See the shadows in your eyes. You know it comes as no surprise. Don't you know that the road goes on forever? See the wide highway lines. Times of darkness in your mind. Roll the dice until it's over. Tell me all their friends are only lovers. Maybe somewhere down the great white plains, maybe you will find yourself again. Don't you know that the road goes on forever? Well, until we meet again, maybe somewhere way up west, in another time, around another bend, somewhere down the road that lasts forever.
What makes music special to you specifically?
I'm struck there. I don't know that it is special to me. I mean, and that sounds kind of strange, but I guess it's the fact that I've always played and it's never really been anything other than kind of a natural thing to do. I've never really looked at it as special. It's another dynamic of life. It is special though, and it can be, and it brings people together, and it moves people in a way that we found out in the last tour. A couple of my favorite gigs have actually been one we played in old folks home for Tracy's father.
Yeah,
and,
my
and,
dad. My dad was in an old folks home.
It was pure.
Yeah, we went and played
pure
for
gift
him.
and purely appreciated.
Yeah, that was rad.
Another similar gig was in Newark, New Jersey, with an organization called A Slice of Hope, and it was in a homeless shelter, and they donates
Yeah, that was
donates
rad.
a bunch of pizza, and they hire bands, and you can either take a little stipend or we donated our performance. And,
Yeah, for sure.
That is
it was-
awesome.
It was the right thing to do.
It's awesome.
It was a place where we were fish out of water, to say the least. And but everybody was very appreciative, and it really points out that music has a universal aspect to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably really what I would say makes it special.
Well, I will chime in and give you my opinion on what makes music special. I think it is the language of the universe. I cannot ever, there was never a time when I haven't been absolutely blown away by music and the sounds and the ability for sound to totally change a person's life. So I feel like there should be more of it. More people should play it. It shouldn't be withheld from anybody. It should be given freely. I get people need to make money playing it. I understand that, absolutely. It'd be nice, it is nice to be compensated for your time, but I've never been burned out on it. And every single time I go on stage, it's a different experience. And every single time I sing one of my songs, even if I've sung it 1,000 times before, it's a different experience. I like the most about it. It's never the same for me, ever. And the reason it isn't the same is because for me, other than there is a mathematical equation to music, and you've got it, you're in 4/4 time, you're in this time, you're in that time, you're doing this, you're on the upbeat, you're on the downbeat. But it is an emotional and emotive experience for me. So I try to touch people with my voice. As I said, I'm more of a story singer, and I try to get them to think in ways with my lyrics that maybe they wouldn't think at. And it's exceedingly difficult because most people do not listen to lyrics. They don't listen to original music, and they're my friend and I used to play with a guitar player, and he coined it right. It's the limbic system shuffle. And the limbic system is very much feed or breed. So most people just want to hear this. They want a mating beat, right? They want a beat that they can party on down to, get themselves some. And that's cool, but it's not where I'm at. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I'll hold the bottom down, and we can play the limbic system shuffle all night long. But I'm a lyricist first and foremost. I like what my lyrics say to get in people's head like a worm, you know, and make their ear holes listen to something different. And I think that, you know, maybe I'm just a dinosaur in this world now, and I am in a lot of ways. I think that music could actually change the world if people actually listen to it. It's much better than listening to a bunch of lying politicians, blah, 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 blah. Wouldn't you rather listen to somebody's song?
Yeah.
You know, not all music is good music, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that my music isn't their cup of tea, but I still strive to make somebody think something, like realize they're not alone. Everybody's sad, everybody's happy, everybody's down, everybody's up. You know, we're all so much more similar than we are different. And the ego in music, in my opinion, doesn't really belong. No, it's, you know, what are you going to save it for? Some ego museum that you put your stuff in at the end of your life? No. You know, like I find it very laughable that some people think that they're so amazing. Like, you know, really, nobody's that amazing. Play your music, try to be a good person, and hopefully somebody will listen to it, you know, or not. You know, what do? It doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. I'm not going to stop playing music because I'll tell you what. I'm gonna quote Mark Arm. Mark Arm is a Seattle guy. He's a one of the guys, the lead guy, kind of in Mudhoney. And there was I watched, and their sound is great. I mean, I'd love to meet the guy. He said in this documentary I watched on Mudhoney, he said, if you're playing music for anyone but yourself, you're fucked. It might be a little bit gauche, but the bottom line is I think what he was saying is you need to play music for yourself first and foremost, you need to play music because it's what feeds your soul.
Well, yeah, if you seek external validation, you might come up disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. If you're out there hoping somebody's gonna like you, you're fucked. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like a bitter old husk here.
It's all right. You can cut a lot of that out.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Nah.
But it's kind of like you doing what you do. You do it because you like it, because you groove on it, right?
Yeah. That kind of falls right into the next question. What advice would you give somebody who is a new musician?
Right.
Oh yeah, that was easy for me. What you should do is learn just a little bit about music law. You don't have to educate yourself to the point where you could actually qualify for a degree or anything, but it's good. There are a lot of books out there that teach you how to run your band business, and those are great. I think just not that you'll ever even need it or use it, but it can keep you from making some stupid decisions. I definitely made some dumb decisions early on and just about gave away a lot of publishing and things like that. And I understand it's a trade-off, and business is business, and anymore I guess publishing's not that valuable. But I just think it's a good idea to educate yourself just a little bit into that distasteful aspect of it.
Yeah, Rod's good at that. He's got thick skin and he's knowledgeable, and a lot more knowledgeable than me on that kind of stuff. I would say younger musicians learn how to speak the language of music. If you're playing with musicians, you need to be able to discuss your trade. So therefore you should know music theory a little bit, and you should know what you're talking about. I think you need to know, some solid scales. You need to know your chords. You need to know your dominant, your altered, your major, your minor, your modes of the majors. Some music theory, I think, is a good thing to be able to learn the language of music. And then perseverance and believe in yourself. And then be a kind and compassionate person and not check your ego at the door. Because there's always a better player than you. I mean, there's always somebody who's better than you. And that somebody might be a YouTube kid that's 9 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like the little girl in that Dave Grohl was like, she's the best drummer out there right now.
I'm talking about. Yeah. But I mean, exactly. There you have it. There's always somebody either younger or older than you that's a better player. So I would say just be a good person, be able to discuss music, and also not, when people don't like what you're doing, don't take it to heart. Criticism and compliments are pretty much the same. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're complimented, that's a nice thing. If you're criticized, I don't know. I tend to take them in the same category. People criticize me, I hear what they have to say, and I analyze it in my mind. If people compliment me, I hear what they have to say, and I analyze it in my mind. It doesn't affect, ultimately, what I think of myself or my music.
Sure, if you listen to that stuff too much, it can also stunt you.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing I would say is don't wait until you've got things crafted to a state of perfection that you may or may not achieve. I mean, just go do it. There's many times, we're not quite ready for this gig. Well,
you're gonna get ready.
Yeah, certainly. Elton John thought he wasn't ready for LA, and
wow,
it's history.
Yeah, it's sometimes I think that if you are too worried about the perfection of it, you lose the creative spark of it. You've got to balance that. Like you don't want to go up there and sound like an anus, but the bottom line is that sometimes the mistakes that happen are okay, and a lot of times you want to be practiced. I think I don't like messing up on stage. It's embarrassing, and I don't like doing it. But
I don't mind.
No, you don't either. No way. Don't listen to him. It's not true. He does mind.
she's like, no.
He's harder on me sometimes when I like being a drummer. His time is a certain way, being a bass player, sometimes, I'm behind the beat or in front of the beat if I want to be, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's a little different there. But remember, music is supposed to be joy and beauty and art. And art is perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure the people that first heard Black Flag, some of them were like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like it's, like some people don't like polka music. But the people that do dig polka music.
I don't like polka music.
I'm just, you know what I mean right now? I mean,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, everybody has their likes and dislikes,
Polka should probably be illegal.
No way. There's some people that really groove on polka.
Is that the music you would like clogs on and dance to?
Yeah, you drink a lot of beer, I think, first.
I mean, if there's enough alcohol and some funky shoes involved, I could probably get down.
I have a lot of German in me, so I think I can say that stuff. But
it's tuba, and the bass does like a root and a fifth in polka. Dum, 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 dum.
Oh yeah.
You can teach somebody to play the bass in polka. Tuba might be a little harder. Actually, I've secretly always wanted to play the tuba.
And then the last question, I know you already told me a kind of a stage story, but is there a performance that sticks out in both of your heads as like, either what the fuck just happened or wow, that was amazing? Either one.
You want to roll with this one? I can tell you the one that kind of blew me away a little bit if you want. Here it is. All right, I won't ramble on too much. So we're playing in Saturday Market in Portland, Oregon. We had this gig that was right by the water. All right, it was right by the street, and sometimes you'd smell the sewage would waft up, and sometimes the stinky smell would blow over. But Saturday Market's like a giant carnival down there. It used to be every Saturday, crazy, whatever, weird. And our band Navigate North was playing there on a Saturday, and all of a sudden this guy comes up and says, hey, we were at a break, we'd just broken, and the guy goes, hey, I got somebody who'd like to sit in with you guys. You should have him sit in with you. And our guitar player then was like, nah, nobody sits in with us, nobody touches my guitars. And I looked over, and this guy was standing behind this tall guy that was standing in front of him, and the guy looked at me and he goes, no, you really want this guy to sit in with you. And the guy kind of moved to the side, and I thought, that's somebody, that's like a rock star, but who is it? Who's this rock star? This dude looked like a rock star. And long story short,
I thought he had a nice hat. I was like looking for another lid,
Yeah, Ron liked his hat. And long story short, the guy that ended up sitting in with us was Joe Perry of Aerosmith.
Shut the fuck up.
No shit. This guy, and the guy filmed it, and they were playing, I think, at Sunlight Theater that night, and the guy sat in with us, took one of our guitarist Brian's guitars and sat in with us, and we played a song by Elton John called Stinker. And it was pretty rad. And the guy just very chill. We talked about horses. He had a horse tattoo. I have a horse tattoo. Very cool dude. And then later they put it up like at the concert. They put him, but we didn't know, you never know who you're going to meet. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
you never know. This dude was cruising around. Joe Perry was cruising around the Saturday Market in Portland, Oregon, and we got to jam one song with him. And that was awesome.
Yeah, we found out later that he likes to shop at one of the guitar shops down there, somewhere around Hawthorne, I think. But that was why he was in town.
They were doing a concert.
But it was funny. We were blown away by it.
Yeah, I was blown away.
We didn't know what were we going to play, and
it was crazy. I'm telling you.
We picked up a bunch of flats, and
yeah, it was crazy.
It was a keyboard song, but he handled it like a pro. So.
Yeah, no, the dude is a pro. I mean,
very nice man.
Yes, he was a very nice man. He wouldn't remember us from Adam, but I'll remember that always. It was huge. I was like, wow.
You're like, I'm on stage with Joe Perry. It's fine. Nothing out of the normal.
Yeah, that the dude would want to come up and sit in with some little street band,
That's awesome.
That was really cool that he would do that. I really thought he didn't have to do it. I mean, he totally didn't have to do it. And I thought it was cool that he did do it, man. And then also I got to meet Rocco Prestia. And Rocco Prestia was one of my favorite bass players. You know, he was really a monster from Tower of Power, and I got him to sign my strap. And he just recently died, and he's gone now, but that guy changed the way bass was played. He was a finger funk maniac, super fast, yeah. So he was, so I feel like I've met some really good people, and I've learned a lot, and I hope to learn more. You know, I hope more is coming.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining Sound Pollution with the Groovebirds this week. Please drop down into the description section below for all of their links. Make sure you show them some love. Also below, as I said in the intro, is the link to the Patreon page and the website and all that. So remember, be kind and make some noise.